Alrighty. Sweet. Good morning. How are we all doing today? Checking out something on the camera. Or Facebook, rather. Alright, sorry. As I mentioned before, my wife likes to check the quality of the stream, so she was just messaging me on Facebook to be like, hey, something's going on here. And I'm like, yes. Yes, I am aware of that. Let you guys know in a second how many people we got. 14. 14 in. 15 in. Back down to 14. Someone went LOL nope and just, yeeted out. Down to 12. Y'all must really not be in the mood for political behavior today. Just messing. Yeah, so how are we doing today? How is everyone's Friday going? Pop out the live chat. Move the live chat over to here. And put the attendance in the description. Smiley face. All right. So, audio is out of sync. How bad? How bad are we talking? How bad is the audio? And looks like an old Japanese monster movie. Oh boy. Yeah, my wife just sent me a message to the same effect. Try refreshing it. It gets a bit better, and apparently it's catching up. So, at least 5 seconds. All right. Try refreshing the stream. Again, my wife is checking for quality as well, and she had the same issue. Oh, bloody hell! I know I. Hold on. That was in reference to Alexander saying that I didn't put the attendance into the description. Which, I mean, sounds like something I would do, with my general lack of sleep. Still a delay. Awesome. Cool. You love to see it when you fiddle with everything. You spend lots of time trying to get everything to work. Technology, man. Technology. Let me get the link to the attendance. Let's put that in. About 20 seconds in terms of the lag between audio and visual. What is going on? I'm gonna fiddle with my my camera a second. Maybe if I could fix the camera to reset that connection. Yeah, it seems like there was an issue with my camera. Yeah, that seems a lot faster. That seems a lot better. Okay. We'll try that again now. Okay. So, hopefully by now, or hopefully it should be better. Still a delay. Ugh. You love to see it. You love to see it. Okay. Let me get back in the chat. Okay. All right. Much better. Looks synced to me now. Okay, cool. So it was just my my camera being a dupe. All right, my camera's being a doof. All right. Well, I'm glad that it's working. I'm glad that it's working now, or at least it's better now. So I'm really excited about today's class. Just real quick, Chandler, I owe you an email, and I will be sending that to you soon. Haley, if you're here, if you're watching the video, I also owe you an email. I know you'll be getting that soon as well. Yeah, but I'm really, really excited about today because for obvious reasons. One, I pulled, as I mentioned before, the stereotypical professorial read my own work kind of move. I hope at least the subject matter was interesting enough that it didn't feel so much like I'm just trying to have an ego trip right here. Yeah, as you guys could tell from today, we are talking about politics, political behavior, and fiction, right? And why are we doing that? Because last lecture on Wednesday, we really were talking about things by and large that dealt with real information, right? So the news gives across real information. Satire is spinning, things that are real. Fake news aside and things like that, it's generally considered to be real, right? The stuff that we see on social media sites, stuff that we comment on, the differences that we see and thanks to the discourse is considered real, right? But we don't just spend our time doing real information. And political behavior needs to be not just interested in the things that political scientists think that people should be doing, right? Or that political scientists themselves, us being the nerds that we are, that we do, right? We spend a lot of time watching the news. We spend a lot of time doing all that sort of stuff. We have to really be interested if we're actually fascinated with people, right? As many of us are. We should be more interested, or at least as interested, in the things that aren't as overtly political, and to see what kind of effects on the political they have. And fiction, besides being political in and of itself, it has a lot of really interesting political effects. So, we should be just as interested in fiction, right? Because, we spend a lot of time talking about, or not we as ourselves, but a lot of scientists, philosophers spend a lot of time thinking about what it means to be human, right? We thought at first it was intelligence, and then we found out that, hey, animals are pretty damn smart. We thought it was tools, and then we found chimpanzees using sticks to be able to grab termites, and even using them as weapons of war. It can't be drugs. Dolphins use pufferfish to get high, so can't be that either. It's not, and I think for me personally, to put on my former philosopher hat, it's not quite language, right? Because other animals have language. They've done statistical analyses of dolphin chatter to find structural regularities in there that are at least reminiscent of language. Whale songs have cultural and dialectical differences based upon geographic locale. So it's not necessarily just language per se, but I think what makes us human, what is really our species' birthright, are stories, right? Narratives. We have been affected by and have been spinning narratives since we've been human. We can look as far back to the earliest cave paintings, right? The earliest structures that we've made, the earliest artistic things, to find evidence of stories and tales that we tell ourselves and we tell each other that affect our behavior, right? Like our earliest stories were used, you can look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, you can look at other things like that to reinforce societal norms and to really show what should be and shouldn't be the case. So fiction is super, super important, right? We know that fiction has a role to play. So let's go over and do with that. Let's go ahead and go to there. What? Oh no! Wait a second. What? This isn't my PowerPoint. Oh no! I figured that if we're going to be talking about video games and political behavior in some form or fashion, and since I'm already live streaming, why the hell not? So I told you guys on Wednesday that we'd be using video games as the backdrop to our discussion of politics and fiction. I meant that literally. Oh, this is fun. I'm glad you think so. This is a game called Headliner. Headliner is a game where your choices matter, where you play as the individual who is in charge of the news for this city state. You decide what stories get get put into press, it's shown, and ultimately, with that, we get to see how society changes with that. So, let's talk about politics and fiction. Let's talk about that as we play some Headliner. And the reason I wanted to do a game that had a lot of choice-based things is I contemplated streaming Animal Crossing as I did this, but I really wanted to get your guys' interactions. I really wanted you guys to play a role in this too. So we're the Headliner. Public opinion rests in your hands. Right? A Democracy 3 playthrough going. Yeah, I was thinking about Democracy as well, but I feel a bit on the nose. I mean, this is also a bit on the nose as well. All right, annual denizen demographic questionnaire. Our name is Diane. We could change that, but I don't really feel like it. Our husband's name is Andrew. Again, we could do that. We have a daughter named Amber. Our spouse's sex. Okay, so we're female. Our spouse is male. Tutorial is enabled. That's probably fine. Office use do not fill. LOL, no. Okay. Twitch plays Headliner. Oh no, Twitch plays Headliner. That's, yeah, as opposed to Twitch plays Pokemon, that could be dangerous. Alright, so there we go. Official use only, LOL now. Alright, Wednesday, 6 days before the festival. So here's the general plan, right? Here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be playing Headliner, and we're going to be using this as the backdrop for us to be playing and talking about politics and fiction. So every now and then, we're going to be going to the game, we're going to be playing the game, but we're also going to be talking about, just politics and fictions and things like that. And so this will be accompanying our lecture today, right? So let's do a little bit of playing, and then we'll do a little bit of lecturing. How about that? Good afternoon, Diane. I'll be your new liaison, so let me say that we are glad to have you in the Gal Media family. All right. Here are today's story pitches for you to review. We will publish online immediately after your approval. You may wish to approve as many as you wish, or you may approve as many as you wish, but we might have more restrictions later on. Remember, we need a hard angle to stick to. Whatever gets our readers riveted. Oh, and you are up for a promotion. Of course we are. So if you can make our ratings up, if you can get our ratings up, so make it juicy. Ooh, gotta make it juicy. Already you can kind of see some harmonies to the things that we were talking about on Wednesday, right? When we were talking about the bias of the press, if there actually is a press bias. It's not so much that they won't consider all these different sorts of things, where you can put these stories on the table. We'll zoom in on the stories in a second, but there is a bias towards, profitability, right? Because these are private entities, these are private things that need to make money, so they have a profitability thing. So let's go ahead. Take a look at this. Modification 101, release the snap back to the original position. We can have the positive stamp, we can deny that, all that good stuff. All right, so I'll read off the stories real quick, and then you guys will put in the chat which ones you want to see us get published here. All right, Modification 101. From preventing genetic disease to increasing learning aptitude and altering physical traits like eye color, here's a primer on how embryo modification can affect your children. Purist marriage discrimination. All Gary Golden wanted was to wed his sweetheart, Jeanette Vorman, but a local minister refused to perform the ceremony on the basis of Gary's unmodified status. How can the modified majority deny basic human rights to an already marginalized purists? Okay, I don't want to stamp anything yet. I want to... Okay, you know what? I'm going to just stamp that. So that gets the text out of the way. And look at that. It already shows right up here that Modification 101 is on the news tonight. All right, so Puritan unrest at our door. Lyris officials expressed concerns over the amassing Agresistan troops close to their eastern border. We will not succumb to provocation, said President Castro this morning. Galaxia cannot stand silent while our neighbor is threatened. The festival is coming. Are you ready for our biggest annual celebration just 6 days away? Here is a recap of how Galaxia became the first nation with a majority genetically modified population. So apparently our population, really follows in line in terms of the modifications here. Purists and economic burden. As the unmodified minority dwindles to a meager 7%, studies once again show that their job performance lags behind. Is it ethical to continue offering them the same benefits and tax exemptions as the rest of the population? Are regular citizens burdening an unfair cost? All right, I'm leaving it to you guys. What stories do you want us to publish? Which stories do you guys not want us to publish? And while you're deliberating that, and while your answers go into the stream, let's talk about the effects of fiction on political attitudes and behaviors, right? So there's a reason that I went into this dissertation, right? There's a reason why I wanted to study video games and things like that, is because we know that fiction does have effects with other modalities, right? So video games aren't the only way to transmit fiction, right? Obviously we have movies, we have film, we have books, right? Books being probably the oldest one going, since what? Gutenberg Press, 1300s-ish, something like that. So, probably later. I don't know. I'm messing up on the dates. Regardless, we know that books have been around for quite a long time. So that form of fiction has been around for quite a while. So, make sure the chat. I got the chat over here. Yes, I do. I do have the chat over here. All right, let's get back over to that. All right. So we know that the mechanisms. So we know that fiction has an effect on attitudes and behavior with various other things. Actually, historians, for instance, have looked back. Unrest at Our Doorstep is Jacob's suggestion to get that one published. All right, so Jacob has that. So we know, for instance, from historical studies. Let me move the chat a little bit. Unmodified human genocide stories seem important. They seem important, sure. Do we publish them? Do we not? We have to have a consistent angle. Remember that. The game is about having a consistent angle. We have to play either as this universe is MSNBC or this universe is Fox. We got to pick a side and we got to stick to it. So historians, for instance, know that Uncle Tom's Cabin, right, was a hugely important influence in terms of crystallizing attitudes prior to the Civil War on slavery, right? It wasn't that people necessarily didn't have attitudes before. Obviously they did, and obviously that was a salient issue at the time. But the novel actually really helped bring the issue back again to the forefront in a way that was deliberated, discussed, and crystallized, so that sentiments really were strongly rigid on the basis of that. Festival, no. Marriage discrimination, no. Unrest, yes. And economic burden, yes. Let's be more CNN than Fox. Fox makes bank. Fox does make bank. Yes, exactly. I'm following with Alexandra on this. Let's do festival. No, we're not going to talk about the festival. People should know about the festival. Purist marriage discrimination. We're not going to talk about that. There is no discrimination here. Let's go. Unrest at Our Doorstep. Was that unrest? Yes. And economic burden. Yes. All right. All done. Where's that door? Let's see what happened on our way home. There's us. Whee! All right. Let's check this out. What's the show about? The purest shitty job performance. It was in the news. God damn, I need to read up on that. Dude, I am so excited for the festival. See, they know about the festival. We didn't have to publish it. What festival? News didn't say anything. The annual Galaxia celebration of modification. Oh yeah, headliners should keep people informed. So maybe we should keep people informed about noteworthy things going on in society. All right, what else was going on here? So guess what? The guy I've been seeing, he's unmodified. Ew. Time to sever. Conversations are wild. But look at this. Oh, what over here? Purest vermin work here. Not shopping here anymore. Unmodified owners. Goddamn deadbeats. I even read in the news tonight that they can't even do the job right. Look what we've done. Look what you've done. Look what we've done, chat. Ay. Right. So we know that. Oh, looks. Jesse, I'm worried about the conflict in Lieris. Don't worry about it, babe. I'm sure it'll work out. Haven't you heard the news? It isn't looking good. So the world is already changing in response to the stories that we've published. And likewise, the world changes in response to fictive stories as well. Let's think about Heart of Darkness, The Jungle. We can talk about 1984. We can talk about a whole bunch of science fiction books written by H.G. Wells. We know that the world does react to fiction, which is actually appropriate because a lot of fiction is itself also political, right? Who's cast as the bad guys? What tropes are being implemented? So those things matter. And actually, in terms of attitudes and things like that, studies have found that fiction that reinforces societal prejudices, right, has a tendency to solidify those prejudices in people, right? So when people just say, oh, it's just fiction, it's just this, it's just pretend, it's just play, it actually, if the fiction reinforces tropes, if the fiction reinforces attitudes, right, really what it's doing is the same thing as we talked about before with other things when it comes to attitudes. It's giving our brain an opportunity to practice, right, those tropes, to reinforce those stereotypes, right? So that is a really, really important thing in terms of the attitudes. We know in general, though, that fiction has a tendency to create or to engender pro-social cognition or improve social cognition. So the ability for empathy, ability to understand what other people are thinking, and things like that. And there are a lot of different theories as to why they believe that's the case, but social cognition is also rooted generally in being a benefit towards political behavior, greater empathy, and things like that, make people more likely to participate. In general, though, fiction's effects on behaviors and other attitudes, they kind of have the very, very wide umbrella, very, very big umbrella in terms of what those findings are. So, for instance, there was findings on the movie 300 that showed that movie actually primed authoritarian attitudes in individuals, right, for quite a decent amount of time afterwards. Because watching that movie, people kind of got that takeaway from that, at least not necessarily from the text of the movie, not necessarily from the message of the movie, right? Which is kind of funny because it's more like a rebellion against an oncoming oppressor, so why authoritarian attitudes coming in play. The writers of this story make a very compelling case for why it should be the case, but they find that it does. Right? They find that certain movies that dealt with the Cold War, it solidified attitudes dealing with the Cold War. They found that some fiction and fictional narratives dealing with abortion, it changes abortion attitudes on that. Again, a lot of these things for the super salient issues are at the margins, though. So it's not like you're really changing everybody's minds in a single direction based off of this. It's more subtle than that. Again, it's more at the margins. So you can make people kind of shift more towards moderation, shift more towards extremity. It's very hard to get people to bounce to the opposite extreme, unless it's on an issue that they don't necessarily feel very strongly about otherwise, or don't have a lot of information about otherwise, right? So we talked about that when we talked about motivated reasoning and things like that, that people who found the issues to be less important were the ones who were less likely to engage in motivated reasoning, and the reason is because they didn't have as much information and they were more free, ultimately, to bounce around on. At least that was one of the mechanisms. So we know that those sorts of things matter with fiction. Lots of other different effects. We know that CSI shows, right, have changed people's attitudes on the criminal justice system. We know that shows like Law and Order. Maybe do a new story on why people should use the sidewalk instead of standing in the road like lemmings. Okay, first off, Disney lied to us about lemmings, I'll have you know. Lemmings don't just jump off of cliffs like in a mass suicide pact. What happened is that Disney actually made this contraption. Seriously, like there's a Disney documentary that we all remember from the lemmings jumping off the cliff. Disney made this contraption because lemmings have a survival instinct just like everyone else, right? And Disney, in order to show this thing that they had constructed themselves, made a device that would fling the lemmings off. Take back the streets and the mechanical overlords. I agree. Streets were originally for people, not for cars, right? I'm standing right there in the middle. I dare a car to come and slam into me. But we know, like, CSI shows, they matter quite tremendously in terms of changing people's attitudes towards the criminal justice system. In fact, a lot of people who watch CSI shows have a greater influence towards feeling that the world is just, that people really get the outcomes that they quote-unquote deserve. And that's not necessarily problematic in and of itself, but let's think about the record, for instance, like Law and Order, right? How often is it that Law and Order catches the wrong person at the end of the show, right? Where the person is very clearly innocent. Like, never. That doesn't happen in the show. And that makes sense. It would be a terrible procedural drama if that was the case. If the wrong person got caught anywhere near the actual frequency that it does. Like, in the real world, the frequencies in terms of wrongful convictions vary on a number of different things. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it's 20%, right? That 20% of people are innocent or have committed a crime that is less severe than the ones that they ultimately are charged with. We don't see that kind of percentage in the show. Honestly, our lemming propulsion technology are years behind what they used to be. Get put into the lemming towers, yes. We need to get better. You know, we are now in 2020. Our lemming technology should be better. All right. So we know that fiction has these effects and things like that. So with that backdrop, with that knowledge, right, we know about it from books, we know about it from movies, we know about it from television. So for all the different modalities, we know that fiction has an effect on people. Where my study and my work comes in is the fact that we seem to have stopped there, right? Video games had not been studied yet. We'll get to video games, right? So the general idea for what we're going to do for the rest of this lecture is we're going to talk about the mechanisms for how fiction has done this, Going to talk about the neurological correlates for why fiction actually has these effects. And then we're going to talk about why I think games are different, leaving enough time for you guys who managed to read the paper to ask some questions about it. Because it's my work. I'm very, very passionate about it. I love getting some good questions, good feedback on it, and answering any questions you guys might have about it. So let's play a little bit more before we hop into that, though, huh? Okay, I'm assuming this is my husband. Hey, honey. Hi, Mom. Dinner's almost ready. How was your day? McCoy had an 80% conviction rate, which made him one of the most successful district attorneys ever. Seriously? Yeah, again. My day was great. Glad to hear. Mine was a mixed bag. I had this cranky woman today. Kept saying I gave her the wrong pills. I pointed at her prescription, but she kept saying, that's not what I got last time. Ugh, people. I know, right? Worked at the pharmacy for half a decade. I know it inside out. Finally had to call the manager, who pretty much said the same thing. She stormed out in a huff. God, people could be such twats. Language? Daughter. Mostly people are grateful for their pills. Plus, the job pays well and comes with perks. My boss is really laid back, too. He's been letting me take more breaks. Having a hard time getting through the day. Same stuff as the past few months. A few hours in and my energy crashes. Sometimes there's headaches and nausea. Aren't the painkillers helping? Yeah, a bit, thank God, for employee discounts, but I feel like it's been getting worse. Take it easy, okay? Thanks, Diane. You just call her Mom. No, so this is the daughter. This isn't Mom. I am apparently Mom. She called me Mom. Yeah, no, the character that I'm playing is her mother. This is my husband here. I just went with the defaults. Anyways, I was skimming your latest news articles on my break. Caught that pseudoscience piece about unmodified being an economic burden. Ugh, I can't believe you work for that tabloid. Science schmience. I bet it's some PR bullcrap from the big lobbyists. I'm just saying, the issue seemed to be a bit one-sided. Well, it's your paper, Mom. You can publish whatever you want, right? It's more complicated than that. Yes, your mother has responsibility to the readers. Gotta cover all sides of the issues fairly. I have to be interesting. Yeah, I get that, but millions of people read the news and form opinions based on it. Things are already getting rowdy with Galaxia's anniversary. Purist discrimination, modified health issues. Hopefully things don't escalate before the festival. Oh yeah, Tony and his bunch are making signs for us to march with. Don't get too involved with that stuff. You're graduating soon. Have you made a decision about your secondaries? Been thinking about it. Enjoy a bit of fun after stressful exams. Sure, but don't forget what really matters. It's your future we're talking about here, young lady. Speaking of which, I've been thinking about making something for the festival. Maybe a new set of plates. Going back to pottery, Dad? How's that coming along? Slow and messy, but it's fun, and it's a good distraction from all my worries. Helps me relax a bit. Anyway, the food should be about ready. Let me grab the pot. What are we having? Slow-cooked synth beef roast. Oh, he's way too excited about synth beef here. Oh, man, I'm not feeling that. Before I forget, can you pick up the dog food on your way? The synth beef is dog food, man. Okay. On your way back tomorrow, Diane, thanks. Sure. All right, let's eat. Thursday, 5 days before the festival. Hello, Diane. Great response to your publication yesterday. The bit on purists being an economic burden sparked a lot of comments. You picked a strong pro-modded angle. Let's stick to that. By now, you might have noticed we use different colored clips for certain articles. The 3 red clips is an op-ed where we take the stance on heated issues. It is more complicated. How are we going to appease the dollar god if we do honest reporting? Exactly. 2 blues is for info pieces. Keep the populace informed. And 1 yellow is for feedback outcomes of topics we covered before and our influence. Don't worry, I put a sticky note on your desk. You'll get used to it. Today we've got some stories contesting the same spot that needs to be filled. So you need 2 stories stapled together. So if you see 2 stories stapled together, you must approve one of them. The other one will be automatically rejected. Remember, a little controversy never hurts the ratings. Alright, let's see. 2 blue is info. So this is information. Don't forget the dog food. On your way back, love Andrew. Oh, look at that. He spelled it L-U-V. Like my wife and I used to do in high school. Alright. So let's talk about the mechanisms for why fiction has an effect, or how fiction ends up having a deeper effect, right? So fiction's mechanisms, you can really think of 3 core ones, right, that have been really vetted and solidly studied by the literature. The first is called narrative transport, right? And narrative transport was originally founded in around 2000, 2002 led by Melanie Green. what she and her colleagues have kind of written about and discovered is really a big part of what ends up making narratives persuasive, what makes narratives affect us in terms of wanting to do things because of them, of the things we read, is the ability for us to feel like we're being transported into the narratives, right? So theorists on narrative back in the 1980s wrote this wonderful, or one of the theories, I can't remember his name for the life of me off the top of my head, wrote this wonderful sentence about, paragraph about how it's this feeling of being in a world that you couldn't... all right, actually, let me read the stories off real quick, and then we'll go into... And then I'll continue talking. Festival less than a week away. Fun family times are ahead, but the purist organization Clean Slate has its misgivings. Will this year's event... Oh, looks like OBS is disconnected. Gonna wait for it to reconnect. OBS is reconnected. Cool. Okay, now that OBS is reconnected, festival less than a week away. Fun family times are ahead, but the pro-purist organization Clean Slate has its misgivings. Will this year's events be just another example of unmodified discrimination? Here's a look at both sides. I can grab two. Okay. Or they're stapled together, so I have to answer. I have to suggest one of them has to get published, the other one doesn't. Purist workers benefit businesses. New research by the Small Business Alliance show that purist workers perform a mere 16% worse than modified. Small price to pay for increased diversity and fewer medical expenses related to modified-only ailments. Ooh, that's right. Got to think about that. It's not just the pay that comes into it when you deal with a small business. Your overhead also includes insurance and also includes medical stuff. So, got to keep that in mind. Purist workers hurt businesses. Small Business Alliance has revealed that purist laborers perform 16% worse than their modified counterparts. It means that 1 in 5 lost tips and returned merchandise, not to mention exponentially spread disease due to unclean bathrooms. That's not how math works, Alexander. They wanted the festival, give them the festival. I'm inclined to agree on that, but that's not how math works. All right, let's move that over to the side. Tima Grinspan arrives. The angelic tones, the pure voice, the catchy tunes. That's right, our beloved celebrity has arrived in Galaxia just in time for the festival. Modified rights at risk. Galaxia is struggling to support unmodified minorities, susceptible to 34% more chronic disease and proving less efficient in the workspace. With limited funding for social support, we need to curtail unchecked expansion of the purist population. Purist rights are at risk. Recent refusal to wed a purist couple by local minister is quickly sparking national debate. The Gold v. LaCroix trial. LaCroix? Automatically, they should just automatically go with Gold, because LaCroix is garbage. Trial is more than a squabble. However, it's setting a precedent for our nation. Purists cannot be denied the right to marry. It is a basic human right. End of discussion. All right. So, we have the festival. I'm inclined to agree. Let's give him a festival. I'm going to just go ahead and say that Tima Grinspan arrives. That's a happy thing. Is your grocer a filthy unmodified? I'm not even... I feel like we can get what that is. War in Lyris. Agresistan troops marched across the borders of our neighbor at 2:13 a.m. last night. Mortar explosions soon followed as the border villages, as thousands fled their homes in panic. How should Galaxia respond? Shoot us a message with your thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and just give him the info. Give him the info on that. But for these other ones here, we have some options. Let me know what options you want to have that as I continue to talk about that. So it's more than just transportation, right? Going into it. It's also identification. So it's the feeling that you are that character, right? That the character it's a common trope. A lot of people used to make fun of Twilight, a lot of it for it, even though there's actually a really expert use of this particular narrative device, although the rest of the writing was just trash, was the idea of just making your character feel not necessarily so like to have the main character be able to be accommodating to just about anybody who wants to put themselves into that space, right? So Bella Thorne was so nondescript. I think her last name was Thorne. Whatever the fuck, I don't know. I don't care. We're fortunately years beyond Twilight. Bella was so nondescript that a lot of like anybody, a whole bunch of different women, from like teenagers to scarily enough moms. I can already hear Bill O'Reilly when we published that. From like moms, right, to feel like they were her, right? So identification is a big thing. I like all the purists is marked as controversial. Yeah, they are controversial. All controversial things. So feeling like you're there, right, is a big part of that, right? So feeling like you're there is a big way to be affected by these things. And they also have cognitive elaboration, right? So you can think about in psychology, they have this thing called the elaboration likelihood model. And the elaboration likelihood model talks about how people are more likely to be affected by things the more that they actually spend time going through what's called System 2, or rather System 1 in this case, which is just kind of slow and deliberative processing, as opposed to the quicker, more expedient systems. Bella Thorne is a celebrity. Well, thank you, Ashton. Appreciate that, but close enough. What was her last name? What was the freaking protagonist's last name in Twilight? Now it's gonna bug me. I should know this. Yeah. All right. See, what's the problem with me doing this sort of stuff? It reveals that like my knowledge base is just super. Like I got certain kinds of pop culture down. Not as much as I'd like though. But cognitive elaboration, so basically that the more you actually think about and elaborate on a thing, the more likely you are to be impacted by it. So that's slow, deliberative processing. Daniel Kahneman calls that system, I want to call that, he calls that system 2. Bella Swan, thank you. Okay, yes. I'm so dumb. Thank you, guys. All right, it's Swan. Appreciate that. All right, so that's the main mechanisms for that. And when you talk about this sort of stuff, one of the big things that people tend to think about is, the real Twilight fans came through on this one. Yes, they did, and I do actually appreciate it, and I promise I will not forget that for the rest of my life. This is burned in my memory now. The thing is that like, a lot of people think that, okay, we should be able to distinguish between fiction and fact, and we do to a certain extent, but not as well as we otherwise might think, right? So the reason for that is because there's the area of our brain that has been shown through neuroimaging studies to actually differentiate between fiction and nonfiction is the prefrontal cortex. Debates go back and forth between whether it's the anterior or the dorsal, but it's the prefrontal cortex in general. But the prefrontal cortex doesn't just distinguish between fiction and fact. That's also the area where we simulate reality to be able to understand it. So like our reality isn't just like we don't just see things and go, oh, I understand. We have these cognitive models of reality that are constantly kind of operating in the back burner of our minds. It's called the default mode network, right? The default mode. And the prefrontal cortex plays a big role in the default mode. So your brain is determining between fact and fiction, and then part of it is because it's basing off of its previous models of reality. But the prefrontal cortex also, in a way it makes that judgment, is based off upon your own personal feelings of proximity to it, right? So if you feel like you're super relating to this information, your brain is actually physiologically more likely to mark it as true, right? Even if it's from a fictitious source, your brain is much more likely to identify it as true. And that's not even getting into the fact that, neurologically speaking, your brain processes like nouns and things like that automatically in ways to be able to figure out how it would be identifying with it, how it would be interacting with it, and the fact that when you see people or anthropomorphic items and objects, that like when it raises its hand, the motor neurons in your brain that for your own hand raising activate but are ultimately dampened to the effect so you don't ultimately raise your hand. That's called mirror neurons, and that's a lot of psychologists, neurologists believe that it's ultimately the root behind empathy in the human species. So we know that our brains are ultimately operating, right, when we see fictional things, and if we feel like we're closer to it, that little gatekeeper that says, hey, this is true and this isn't, that is not as good at filtering that information. Ultimately, our brains are informational omnivores. They don't really much care as much about whether something is real or fake, and partially that's a response that's evolutionarily advantageous to us, especially when we think about fictional, right? Think about morals, think about fables and other things like that. Think about things that we've been, the stories that we tell ourselves and we've been telling as a society for eons, right? They wouldn't be effective if our brains had this super specific filter for, fiction versus not. We can resonate when we can identify with something, and when it resonates with our understanding of the world, then it has a higher effect of us taking at least that information as being truth-ish, right? And ultimately applying truth-ish information to our understandings of reality and those sorts of, and from there affecting us and our attitudes and our behaviors. The way that I think video games are a little different, right, is that ultimately, like everything else, right, this has a story, right? this game that we're playing right now has a story involved. I'm going to just assume that we're gonna purist rights are at risk. Nope. He said filthy unmodified, and purist workers hurt business. Also, don't forget the dog food. All right, don't forget the dog food. Liars! Oh no, people don't like us. People aren't as happy. Tina Grimspan is in Galaxy. So we're seeing a story play out here, right? So that's one part of this, is that we see the story. Purist vermin live here, right? But as this game really demonstrates more than many others, and this is a big part of my thesis and a big part of my work, is that video games are different in that it's not just stories being told at you like any other narrative medium, is that ultimately it's us. Right here, I mean, Diane, that's kind of me, right? My input in here with the WASD and, you know, the clicks in terms of the decision, Diane is my little avatar in this world. She is my presence there. And I'm ultimately acting. We are now the eugenics paper of record. Congrats, everybody. This game has multiple choices, right? And multiple options. But it's actually like, Madison, that you mentioned that, because obviously that's exactly the kind of issue that we're talking about here. Because, and this is what my article talked about, what my paper talked about, is that games that make us elaborate and think deeply on moral issues, which this game very clearly does, and so does a lot of other games. Even games like Animal Crossing makes you think about moral, social, and political issues. But when they make you think about and elaborate on these sorts of issues, make you relate to issues that are happening in the real world, they're more likely to affect your attitudes and ultimately impact your levels of participation. Right? Because a big part of it isn't just that, because part of that elaboration, right, part of the fact that they make you elaborate more isn't just because they're interesting and intriguing. Part of that interest and intrigue comes from the fact that we're playing it. That psychological distance is shrunk to damn near zero, and well, especially in better constructed games, right? We don't really feel like this is necessarily us, but in a game where you can, say, customize your avatar, make it feel like it really is you, like in a Fallout game or something like that, then they will actually refer to you by your name, right? That's something. We're fighting the great modified replacement. That feels like it is you, right? So remember when I talked about how you have that little gatekeeper, right? And how its real trigger isn't necessarily real truth and not truth, but how much it relates to you, right? That resonance with you as an individual, right? So if you feel like you're there, it's bypassing that filter. It feels like it's an experience that you're actually having as an individual, not just that. And there's a lot of psychological research on things that talks about this sort of stuff, right? That leaves us with about 5 minutes. And for the next 5 minutes, because we're probably going to just have to, can't believe purists, they still allow purists to marry. They don't support our economy, they shouldn't get the same benefits. Glad the media is supporting our views, at least. Peace and Lidris. Alright. Nausea again, I think it might be the modified rejection sickness. Uh-oh. No business for unmodified. Uh-oh. I can't get in. I can't get in. Oh no. That's right. The grocery, I forgot about this. The grocers have purist individuals. So they're protesting it, so I can't actually go to the grocery store and get dog food. Wow. Okay, I did not expect that. But this game really shows that point because, right, we're making the choices. We're ultimately impacting the world. We have that leverage here. The game does an excellent job at making it feel like that our choices matter, and that this mattering has social, moral, and political ramifications. So for the last few minutes of class today, I wanted to get your guys' questions about games, about fiction, about all this stuff, right? And just in general, your guys' questions. I hope you guys enjoyed our little demonstration today. The purists are dog killers. To be fair, the purists are willing to sell me the food, but we can't get in because the anti-purists won't let us into the building because they're prejudiced against the purists. I'm like legitimately tempted to just finish streaming this game or finish streaming a playthrough of this game for you guys. Would any of you guys be interested in me just like setting aside a time on like a Saturday or a Sunday, and all of us getting together and just playing finishing our playthrough of this game? Just putting that out there, see if anybody is actually interested in that. Again, I'm just gonna wait for the chat to talk about it. Also, I forgot to tell you guys what the song clue was. The song clue was there's this artist, this electronic artist, called Funk Fiction, and he has this song, or they have this song rather, called Aquatic Ambience that uses the Donkey Kong theme song from the water levels. So it was a bit of a nod towards what we'll be doing today. What if we can't get in because we are unmodified? I don't know if our character is modified or not. I think that's we'd have to keep playing and find out. I'd be there. All right, we'd have one. Sure. All right, so we have 3 people. We have 3 people who would go, who would do a live stream of it. All right, we got 4. I'm gonna just pop back over to the just my face thing. There we go. All right. This is the most I've interacted with people in like 2 weeks. So I know. That's also part of why I wanted to do this. Like, so this is hard. Why not have some fun with, why not try to have a little bit of fun, add a little bit of levity, right? All right, so we got a few people who'd be interested. I'll send out an email. Maybe we do this next weekend. Maybe we do this next weekend. All right. So that gives everybody a chance to kind of clear their... Well, or maybe we do this... Maybe we do it this weekend. I don't know. I'm just trying to think what my schedule is for this weekend. I think we could... I mean, because I'm definitely going out, right? Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it this weekend. I'll send out an email, and we'll do it tomorrow, and we'll go ahead and do this. Obviously, this is just optional. This is just something that we could do as a class, as a group. Have some social interaction. Does anybody have any questions about politics and fiction, politics, political behavior, all those sorts of things, or any other questions in general? Speaking on class issues, not speaking on class issues because then I really should be reported to Charlie Kirk for Marxism. But speaking on issues related to the class in the fall, clear wet schedules. Yeah, I know. I realized that as I said it. LOL. Yeah. So, there was they figured out what the issue is for the signing up for the fall class. However, the person who's responsible for fixing that, if they didn't fix it yesterday, it won't get fixed till Monday because they're taking a 3-day weekend. As he said in his email, that he's going to explore the northern expanse from his den where he works and explore the far reaches of his living room. So, if it hasn't been fixed yet, it should be fixed on Monday. Is this game on Steam? Yes, this game is on Steam. This actually is the precursor to a game called Novi News, Headliner Novi News. You're able to sign up for the class this morning. Honestly, I'm just hoping that a telemarketer will call me, that someone has a chance to talk to me. I mean, I get calls from like the Chinese ones. The election data science class is up now. Okay, good. The election data science class is up now. Then, if you are interested in it, please go sign up. As I mentioned before, we're going to be doing a lot of really cool stuff in there. So we'll be doing, scraping. We'll be doing causal inference. It'll be a really interesting time, especially because it's going to be an election. There is no better time to do election data sciences than an election. And thanks to everything that's been going on over the last 4 years and going on over the last few weeks, this election is going to be historic one way or another, right? Yeah, if you guys are interested in that class, I'd be ecstatic to have you in it. So I'm really excited to be able to teach it. Hopefully we'll have a more normal kind of feel with this. Just added it. Just got in. Excellent. Fantastic. I'm so upset that I can't buy the dog food. It's just staring at me, mocking me. Excellent. My wife messaged me, it seems. Something about the stream. Oh, that's right. My wife is reminding me that we have D&D scheduled this weekend. For the same reason. But I can make that work. That's easy. Wow, I'm going to be just the biggest freaking nerd this weekend. I'm going to be live streaming video games and playing Dungeons and Dragons. I am now sitting here wondering what I've done with my life. Oh, yeah. Okay. Again, just one last call before I sign off for today. Do we have any questions on this? You guys are more than free to email me if you have any questions about it. Otherwise, about fiction, about politics and fiction, things like that, and how fiction affects our political behavior. Obviously, this is something I'm more than happy to talk about just in general. It's a topic that I am so head over heels about, as you can imagine with all my research on it. So yeah, if you guys are interested, I'll 8:30 really. Okay. I did not have any call on that. All right, Alexandra, that is not me. Like, I actually explicitly asked, bro, what a life the dream. I actually explicitly asked if they could change the 8:30 time because I had no say in that. So no, trust me, I'm feeling you. I'm not excited about that either. But for those who do sign up, fortunately, the last time the class was taught, it was in the informatics building, and they actually had free coffee at the informatics building. Hopefully, it's still there. And if that's the case, at least it'll be free coffee and good company. That's the hope. So yeah. Otherwise, I'll wait a couple seconds before I shut down the stream to see if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, please feel free to email me them. I hope you guys just in general are doing all right. I know that the situations for everyone is stressful one way or another, and that, you know, with economic issues, they could be affecting everybody asymmetrically and things like that. Who did give us 8:30? Blame the general lack of classrooms, but also blame the person who normally teaches this class. He usually teaches at 8:30. Bringing breakfast with me. As long as it doesn't smell, you know, in a sense that like it'll distract other people, go for it. I don't care. Like, bring your breakfast. You know, if you can't, especially if you can't otherwise concentrate, I don't care. Bring your food. You know, whatever helps you concentrate or whatever. So yeah, just as long as it's not like something that's like super loud or like don't bring in like some like super delicious smelling breakfast that's gonna like make us all like just want to stop working and go get breakfast. Although actually that gives me an idea that maybe like the last class or something like that I'll bring in breakfast. I don't know. Any hoozle. So yeah, if you guys have I hope that you guys are doing all right, is what I was saying before I got distracted by chat. I hope everything is going okay. If things aren't going okay in general, and you feel like you need someone to reach out to talk to, just in general, like, I'm not obviously a professional or anything like that, but I care about you guys, and I want to help as I can. So, if you feel like you're alone, you're not. If you feel like there's an issue with the class that you want to talk to me about, that's fine. My digital door is always open. And if you feel like you just need someone to talk to, I'm also here for you, okay? So no locks. I'm not getting that one. I'm not getting that reference. I'm not getting the locks reference. I'm gonna have to Google this. Oh, it's a bagel. Yeah, unfortunately no locks. Alright, it took me a minute to get that reference. Yeah, unfortunately not. I just don't want I don't want people to get distracted. Unless I just have it so that everyone brings their breakfast, in which case then everybody's just eating breakfast. I don't know. I'm still playing with that. But yeah, just continue to be safe. If you guys have any questions, any issues, anything at all. Oh, the fish bagel. Yeah, no. So definitely no locks. Please keep being safe. I'll send out an email. Well, those of you who want to go ahead and play this game tomorrow, we'll reconvene tomorrow. No, I've never had locks. We'll reconvene tomorrow for those of you guys who want to keep playing the game. I'm going to go ahead and just finish up this section and talk with the conversation because I get the feeling of the family conversation